All right, we're going to get started. I'm Gary Castor, the managing editor of the Jefferson City News Tribune, and I welcome you tonight to the News Tribune Forum for the Cole County Sheriff candidates for the August 2nd primary. Before we begin, I'd like for us to stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want to thank those who came to City Hall tonight for this forum, as well as those who are listening through JCTV as well as newstribune.com. A few introductions as we get started. To my left is Rebecca Martin, the News Tribune features editor, who will serve as timekeeper for this evening. Each of the candidates will have 1 minute for opening statements. Then we will follow that by general questions where the candidates will be given 2 minutes to answer the question. And then we will conclude with closing statements in which the candidates will all have 1 minute to respond. So let me introduce the candidates. Beginning on the left, Gary Hill, Patrol Division Commander for the Sheriff's Department. In the center, John Wheeler, Chief Deputy for the Sheriff's Department. And on the right, Randy Dampf, Chief Investigator for the Prosecuting Attorney's Office. All three are Republicans on the August 2nd ballot. So let's begin with our opening statements. Before the forum, we drew lots, and John Wheeler will begin.
Better. All right. I appreciate you having the forum and inviting us. My name is John Wheeler. I'm the Chief Deputy right now at the Cole County Sheriff's Department. I came from southeast Missouri, but I consider Jeff City my hometown. Whenever I moved up here from Sykeston, Department of Public Safety, and took a job with JCPD, my wife followed me up here, and then my brothers and my sister, and then my mom and dad. And so I have a lot of family that moved up here with me. My mother and father both passed away here. My wife is laid to rest here in the cemetery here, so I consider this my hometown. My education, I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice administration through Columbia College here in Jeff City. I have numerous hours within law enforcement as far as training. My experience, I think the experience that I have is I have municipal down in Sykeston, Department of Public Safety with fire, and then I came with JCPD, another municipality, and then I went to Cole County Sheriff's Department, which is a county sheriff's department. So my military experience, that's it. Okay.
All right, thank you. Next for an opening statement will be Gary Hill.
Hi. I came up here in 1992 to attend Lincoln University, where I graduated there my bachelor's degree in criminal justice. I pursued a job in law enforcement at the Cole County Sheriff's Office. I've spent the last 18 years at Cole County Sheriff's Office, and I've worked just about every position there is to work there at the Cole County Sheriff's Office, starting out with the jail, into a patrol division, back to the jail, and now I'm the patrol division commander. Within my time at the Cole County Sheriff's Office, over the last 18 years, I've had the opportunity to work for 4 different sheriffs. And working up under those 4 different sheriffs, I've had the opportunity to take something from each one of those sheriffs and learn and be able to put it in my toolbox, be able to run for sheriff now. Me and my wife own a business here, Heads Up Salon. I'm not originally from Jefferson City. I'm from Muskogee, Oklahoma, but I consider Jefferson City my home. That wasn't my choice, but I did choose to raise my children and my family here in Jefferson City. Thank you.
Thank you. Randy.
Thank you. Good evening. A couple of years ago, I reached a point in my career where I asked myself, how can I best serve my community as a law enforcement officer? I had spent nearly 28 years as a Jefferson City police officer and had worked my way through the chain of command, gaining valuable experience along the way. Knowing that Sheriff White would be retiring, I decided that I was going to take on the challenge to become sheriff. With the support of my wife, family, coworkers, and friends, I decided to run for sheriff. I believe that the Best person for sheriff is somebody who has gained experience over the years working their way up through the chain of command and serving in various roles. As sheriff, I, along with all of our staff at the Sheriff's Department, will serve our community to the best of our abilities, keeping our community as safe as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to begin our general questions at this point. Some of these questions were written by my staff. Some were written and submitted by readers, as well as the folks in the forum tonight. And as I said, we're going to try to get to as many as possible. Some of the questions, each of you will have an opportunity to answer. One question will go down the line. Some of them will be very much directed at you and things you've said in the past. I would also share that none of the candidates know what these questions are, so let's just get started. All right? So we're going to start with Gary Hill. Why did you decide to run?
I decided to run because I want to continue to contribute to my community. With 18 years of law enforcement and here in Jefferson City, since I've made it my home, I want it to be my responsibility to take care of my family and yours. If you look at my education level, I've gone up to a master's degree in criminal justice, and I have specialized training from the FBI National Academy. Being a patrol officer, a jailer, assistant jail administrator, and now patrol division commander, I feel that is the natural progression of my career. I've contributed so much to the county. I want to continue to contribute to the county as Cole County Sheriff. As sheriff, you'll be able to put in your tweaks and your things that you want to see done in the county. It's your office, so with that power, you're able to do the things that you feel need to do that are important to you as sheriff and the community. So that is my reason that I want to run for sheriff.
All right. Thank you. Randy.
Well, like I stated in my opening statement, the reason I decided to run for sheriff is that I had reached a point in my career where I think I had gained a lot of valuable experience, not only as a police officer, but as a supervisor and a manager. I saw the need for a strong leader for the Sheriff's Department, especially in these times that we're living now. More than ever, law enforcement needs good, strong leadership. With the roles that I've served in over the years at the police department, I believe that I am going to be the most effective sheriff for this county. You know, it's not a decision I took lightly to run for sheriff because it takes a lot of work, a lot of effort. You have to get a lot of support from family and friends in the community. So it's not something that you just throw your hat in a ring. It's something that you put all of your effort into, like I have done. And being the only one that was born and raised in Cole County, I think I am closest to the community. And so I have a lot of family and friends living throughout Cole County. And I think I would best serve as sheriff because of those ties that I have to this community.
All right. Thank you. John.
When Sheriff White, when I was with JCPD and Sheriff White asked me to be his chief deputy, I told him I'd have to think about it because making the decision to be chief deputy wasn't just about being the chief deputy for while he was in his tenure. It was about me also progressing forward to the Sheriff's Department to be the sheriff. Through the past 11 and a half years, the Sheriff's Department has come a long way. We've changed a lot of culture in there. We've brought it along, and we've really done a good job, I think. We're responsive to the community. With Sheriff White's assistant, with training under him, I believe that I have the education, the experience, and the diverse experience because I come from more than just a municipality. I come from a municipality. I come from the County Sheriff's Department. I have 30 years military. I think all these things will give me better vision to be able to keep moving our department forward. And again, service to the community. That's what I've been doing for the last 30 years. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So we'll go to our second question. We'll begin with Randy. How would you assess the current operations of the Sheriff's Department?
Well, that's a question that was asked by the News Tribune, and that can be answered in two different manners. One is, how do you conduct an assessment? And I think that's something that any new manager going into a business or a department has to be open to looking at every aspect of the operation, getting input from those who work in those areas, and seeing what changes that can be made in a positive manner. Now, if you're asking how do you make an assessment, that's different than going in and doing an assessment. So with your question, Bob Watson had asked, it was confusing on what you were looking for on that answer. But if you're asking on if somebody comes in as a new sheriff, how do they make an assessment of the department, I think you have to be open and you have to ask questions and you have to know what the community wants out of their sheriff's department. And then you see what the employees believe. The employees of the sheriff's department have a lot of knowledge on how the operation is run. And you take that information and you weigh out all the factors that you have, and then you make the best decision you can.
Okay, thank you. Let me follow up with a question, because sometimes we journalists don't ask specific questions as we should. So how would you rate the current operation of the sheriff's department? How would you go about assessing of it? How would you rate its performance at its current date?
Well, if you're asking how I view the sheriff's department now, is that the question? How I
Yes.
see their operation is now?
Yes.
I think overall they're doing a good job. They have a lot of dedicated employees who work hard every day and never take anything away from them. Are there areas for improvement? Of course there is. With any department, there's going to be areas that can be improved upon. And I think that's the thing that I would look at on how we can improve our operation. I'm not somebody who wants to nitpick and say, well, I've seen this or done that. Overall, the sheriff's department is doing a fine job with the limited resources and the money and the staff that they have. So, they're doing a good job, but I think there's room for improvement.
Okay, thank you. John, you will be next. So how would you rate the current operations of the department?
I think the current operations are great. We've taken a lot of time and effort to put the people in place where they are right now to ensure that whenever you do an assessment like that, or whenever you're looking at how an organization is doing, it's not something you can do once a year. It's not something you do once a week. You do it daily, and you have to tweak those organizations. You have to tweak the different parts of it all the time to make it work. New laws come down, new Supreme Court decisions come down, and when that happens, you have to stand back, look at your operation, and move forward. There's always room for improvement. I would like to see us do better in the community as far as the community outreach programs that we have. The Neighborhood Watch program, I'd like to see us increase that somewhat. I'd also like to be able to go do better with the Community Marshal program, like the Taos Wardsville position. I'd like to be able to expand that more and get more of those deputies out in there, because it's about trying to react to the violence. It's about to react to the service that we're doing within the community. Support Services is the number 3 organization in the state for delivering papers. So we deliver a lot of papers, civil documents. So that's something that we always constantly have to look at to ensure that we're doing what we're supposed to do, how we're supposed to do it, because it's not just about garnishments. It's also about subpoenas. It's also about there's all just a plethora of things that we have to do in Support Services. They do a great job. Jail is always going to be a hard one, because number one, working the jail is a hard job to work, and then you're constantly trying to deal with a schedule. It's something that you want to put people in place that look at those processes and make sure that we're doing the best we can, and then tweak it when we can. But overall, I think we're doing a superb job with the Sheriff's Department. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Gary?
I think we're doing a great job. I don't put it on the scale 1, I'd say we're about 7.5. The reason why we're about 7.5. Or excuse me. Overall, I think we're doing a great job, and if I had to put it on a number scale, I'd say we're doing about 7.5. The reason why I say we're doing about 7.5 is, one, funding. You can get the best law enforcement in the world if you got the funding. You can get all the manpower. We can put a deputy in every town. We can do foot patrol. We can do a whole lot of things in our densely populated areas if we had the funding. When running a law enforcement agency, you have to remember, what type of agency do you have? The type of agency we have, we're running 3 divisions. We're running the jail division, patrol division, and civil process division. So each one of those divisions have to be measured separately in exactly what they do and what their function is. I'm the patrol division commander, so I run patrol division. How I assess what we're doing out in patrol is what the citizens tell us. And we do that in a couple of ways. One, we do quarterly appraisals on all our deputies to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to do by the sheriff's level, my level, and the current first line supervisor's level. The other things we do is, after we have any kind of burglary or assault or anything like that, we also send out a survey to the victim to see how the deputy handled the situation. And we do that because we don't have a supervisor in every car. We're covering so much square mileage that in order for us to get a good assessment on how our deputies are doing, we got to hear from the public. The other thing is, when we look at the money and the funding that we have, are we using it correctly? Years ago, the Sheriff's Department, we were running cars to 100, 200,000 miles. Right now, we're getting rid of them about 150, 140,000 miles. A lot of people ask the question on why do deputies have take-home cars? Well, it's to serve the public. A lot of those deputies live out in the rural areas of Eugene and Russellville. They're 17, 20 miles away. But whenever we need them, we're able to give them a phone call and they're able to respond. That gives us an added extra even when those deputies are off. As far as what we could do better, our staffing in the jail has always been a problem, keeping people employed. So we're going to have to work on a schedule that's going to be more conducive to the deputy and the deputy's family and what we do down there to make sure that we're keeping your loved ones, friends, and family members who are in jail safe.
All right, thank you. Next question, we'll begin with John. What do you think people don't understand about the office but should?
Man, our office does so much within the community that people don't understand. Here, just this last year, we started a program called Citizens Informative Academy, CIA. Sorry, they're waving at me back there. But we do a lot within the community. We started the Citizens Informative Academy, which is a police academy that everybody does. But we had to get out and make sure people understood what we do more in the community than what people think. Within civil division, serving garnishments, we have to do evictions. That's all within all of Cole County. It's just not just in one location. It's just not outside the city limits of Jeff City. So we do a lot more that the public needs to be aware of. We have an outstanding group of men and women that's working for us. They give time, they give their energy, they give their compassion. It's just unbelievable that the kind of personnel that we have there. And it is difficult to keep people there sometimes because the surrounding agencies around us do pay a lot more money, or somewhat more, a lot more money. So it's something that I believe that the general public doesn't understand as much as how involved we are within the community. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Gary, what do you think people don't understand about the office but should?
As I said in the answer that I gave Mr. Watson when we sent the emails back, a lot of people don't understand that for the patrol division, we're covering 398 square miles with 21 deputies. And basically what that equates out to is about 6,800 people per every deputy when we have 10 people working on a shift. So what that means is the men and women in the Cole County Sheriff's Office are doing an excellent job as far as being able to get to our citizens in a timely manner. It's not always going to be within 3 to 5 minutes, but they're able to get there within 10, depending on the situation and how fast we're driving. So unrealistic expectations of our capabilities often come into play when people are asking us why it took us so long to get to certain areas and certain places. So that would be the biggest thing, realizing the amount of area that we're covering with the limited amount of manpower that we have.
All right, thank you. Randy?
I think the Sheriff's Department, just like any law enforcement agency, people don't understand the stress and the role that officers have in the community. I think people don't understand that anyone in law enforcement has to be part of the community and work close with their citizens in their community. So I think, sorry, Gary's out of water. I think it's important that people understand that it doesn't matter if it's a sheriff's department with limited resources or a police department with a large budget. There's always pressures on law enforcement to perform. And it doesn't, and I don't know if it matters if it's a sheriff's department or a police department or the highway patrol. There's pressures on those officers, deputies, patrolmen to perform. Not only when they're at work, but even when they're off duty. When they're off duty, they have court appearances. So it's not as easy as people think, going to work Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. The pressures that are on officers today, everyone knows what's been in the news lately. Law enforcement has been under attack. And what do you think is being talked about around the kitchen table today with when the husband or wife comes home from work from a law enforcement agency? that spouse is saying maybe it's time you do find some other line of work to get into. So I think when people look for their law enforcement agencies to be professional and be responsive to their needs, they also have to realize that those men and women in law enforcement are under a lot of pressure today, especially.
All right, thank you. Next question, we'll start with Gary. It's about technology. What are the tools currently available to the Sheriff's Department, and how, if anything, would you seek to improve the technology that's available?
The technology we have available to us right now, we're currently using Interpol, the Interpol system, and we're currently went to a tablet type MDT, mobile data terminal, for our vehicles. Currently right now we don't have CAD in it, and what CAD will be able to help us do is to be able to have information sent directly to the deputies instead of over the radio for the most part. Also, the system right now that we currently have doesn't allow us to be able to type reports and things in the vehicles, and that's only because we have to find a hotspot or have internet connectivity. In doing so, also, we've come to find out in doing a lot of test and evaluation, it's not conducive for the officers to be doing the type of reports that deputies do in their vehicles, in the sense that they got to make phone calls and everything else. So we have to look at definitely a better system and getting CAD back in to our system. As far as what we use in the jail, we have a lot of security measures and systems in the jail that we use in order to identify people that we need to identify. We use the live scan system, which is a fingerprint system. It generates those fingerprints and sends them to a system. We also use an iris scan. And a lot of technology that we use down in jail, that's so that we're looking for people who change their names. We're looking for people who, when we're using the iris scan, it can tell us instantly who that person is, even if they've been using different names and other things like that. So we got a lot of systems going on at the Sheriff's Office, but the main system is our Interpol system. It could be better if we had the money, but again, once we start buying licensing fees and things like that, we have to look at our budget and see what we can afford to upgrade our systems.
All right, thank you. Randy.
It's my belief that within the past few years, the Sheriff's Department has gone backwards in the use of technology. At one point, they had the same equipment that the police department had in their vehicles. They had mobile data terminals. We call them MDTs. They used the same reporting system as the police department. That allowed deputies and officers to view cases from each agency. I don't know that the citizens are aware of this, but the Sheriff's Department, maybe for lack of funds or lack of effort, switched out that system and went to a different reporting system. When they did that, they lost technology in the vehicles for the deputies. The deputies are no longer able to have silent dispatch like the police officers did. A lot of money was spent on grants over the years to get that technology for the deputies and for the officers. And now they have stepped backwards on that. So it would be my goal to try to reinstate that in the cars, because that's a safety issue for the deputies. It allows those deputies to see what other deputies are doing, what calls they're on, and they can look and see real time what the dispatchers enter in that call. And I got to tell you one thing in relation to this. As investigator for the prosecutor's office a few weeks ago, I was looking for a witness. The witness had moved to Crawford County, Steelville, Missouri, a small county. When I called that county and asked to speak with a deputy to try to locate this witness, they said, well, I'll have a deputy call you. When this deputy called me, I could tell that he was out in his vehicle driving around. And I asked him, would you please call me back when you get to the office so you can get on the computer and try to find this witness? And he told me, no, I can do that in my car. And I said, you can check and find all this information in your vehicle? He said, yes, we have a regional system, and we're able to do this work out in our vehicle. I was astonished that Crawford County, Missouri, has better technology than Cole County, Missouri.
All right, thank you. John?
Technology is a great thing when it works. Technology is a great thing when it works. That stupid button. The problem with the New World system that we had was it was a lot of money. We were sold a bill of goods that wasn't true. We couldn't get the customer service. And with a small department like I have, I needed a champion. We needed a champion to be able to run some of the problems that we were having with that, and we weren't able to do that. So as an administrator, I have to look at the funds that we have available and what's actually we're getting out of those programs. The amount of information and the technology that we were getting out of New World at the time wasn't very good, because we could not get any answers. We couldn't get any answers for anything because I don't have anybody that can sit in an office and just work on New World stuff. We did try to work with JCPD a little bit on that, but when it came right down to it, they kept increasing our maintenance, so we have to look at it and prioritize our funds. So we did. I did make the decision. I recommended to Sheriff White to get rid of New World. CAD would be nice to have in the vehicles, but it's not imperative. We didn't have it 5 years before that, and you just have to pay attention to the radio, and we have dispatchers that are paying attention to that stuff all the time. As far as other technology, we just put brand new dash cams in all the vehicles. We'll be starting with body cams hopefully by the end of this month. We'll have body cams going. We changed to a new radio system called MOSWIN. It's a trunk system statewide. And how this benefited us was, instead of having one repeater in the center of the county, whenever we left more than 2 or 3 feet outside the city limits, our radio coverage pretty much went down. Whenever we went with MOSWIN, they gave us a grant to be able to buy new radios. And now we can not only can we get out everywhere in the county. I actually went to I had to do an internal affairs complaint in Herman and was able to get on my radio and call out. That's never happened in Cole County. So there are some aspects that I would like to improve. CAD's one of them. I'd like to get it back in the cars. I'm not opposed to it. We got to find the right funding for it. So as far as the PD not being able to look at our reports, they have licenses. They can look into our system. We bought license and gave them to them, so they can access information from us anytime they want. And we have license from them also. So thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, next question. We'll begin with Randy. There's been talk of whether Cole County should implement a trustee program, which allows offenders who fit a certain criteria to work outside the jail or perform certain duties within the jail. Do you believe such a program should be implemented? Why or why not? And if you do believe a trustee program should be used, how would you envision it working at the Cole County Jail?
Well, I don't know that the jail was designed to have a trustee program within it. You have a level 5 security facility across the street from us, and it really wasn't designed for that, to have a trustees going around and working in there. But it's something I'd like to look at. If it can be done safely for the staff, and if it can save taxpayer money, then I'm open to it. But it's something I would look at.
All right. John.
Well, the first thing is there's no such thing as trustee. It's inmate labor. Saying trustee insinuates that these people can be trusted, and they can't. The problem with our facility is that the pods in the back are set up for classification. And if we were to bring inmate labor in, we'd have to shut down one of those pods because you can't put inmate labor in with general population. A while back, the federal government came down with PREA, Prison Rape Elimination Act. And when they came down, they dictated certain things that we have to do on classification. And to be able to classify appropriately, we need all 8 of those pods. So for us to go to trustees, we would have to shut down one of those pods, and then we would end up, in turn, having more issues trying to classify prisoners. Now, as far as utilize them in the front, the problem there is you've got to supervise them. The layout is an L, so if the inmates are down doing laundry, you have to have somebody standing there. If they're into the kitchen, then you have to have one of our people there too. So in order for us to bring trustee labor or inmate labor on, we'd have to hire extra people to do that. And if we're going to hire extra people, then just let them do the job, because then you don't have to worry about the contraband that comes in, the messages that get sent around. There's a whole lot of problems that happen when you have inmate labor. Thank you.
Thank you. Gary?
Thank you. Being one of the only candidates up here who's worked in the prison and worked in the jail, I can tell you that working with trustees is a double-edged sword. On the good side, basically what it does for our officers who are currently down in the jail, it keeps them from doing jobs that they consider themselves to be menial jobs. A lot of those deputies that are working down in the jail currently right now went to the academy and paid $4,000 or $5,000 to go to the police academy. They want to be a cop. They want to work their way up from the jail to the road. A lot of them don't want to wash, do laundry, sweep floors, mop floors, and keep the place clean. Those are usually the jobs given to by the trustees. Problem that you run into when you're supervising is you have to supervise. We have a large facility, and we have a lot of people going in and out. Just because people don't go back to the pods doesn't mean that they're not still waiting to post bond and they're bringing in contraband, or we don't strip search. We don't violate anyone's constitutional rights by strip searching them. So there's a lot of contraband that could possibly get inside the facility. When you have an inmate out running around who has free roam of the facility, it creates a security breach. When you have that security breach, that's when you put your officers at risk and your facility at risk. As far as using trustees, unless, again, you're going to supervise them 24/7, in which you're going to have to add personnel for that, it's probably not a good idea. I wouldn't be for it.
All right, thank you. All right, next question. This will be for John. We've talked about it just a few minutes previously. What is computer-aided dispatch? You said you want to add computer-aided dispatch to the department fleet, though you also noted the department had it at one time, but yearly costs versus our ability to use the system was not feasible. Why do you think it would be feasible now?
I don't believe it's feasible right now, or else we'd be doing it. The problem is for us to get CAD, computer-aided dispatch, in our vehicles, we'd have to get a system that is compatible with the Jefferson City Police Department, because currently we have a contract with them for them to dispatch for us. So it's not a matter of just finding the technology and putting in the vehicles. We have to find something that would be compatible with the current system that we have right now at JCPD. Before we got the CAD system, the New World CAD system, we were on separate systems then also. So it's not something that I like. I think it would be more advantageous, more efficient to be able to do that. But again, as an administrator, you have to look at need versus want, costs versus what you have in the bank. So right now, I would like to have CAD in there right now. We can't afford it.
All right, thank you. Gary, you've spoken about implementing a new schedule for jail staff. Why is that needed, and how would a new schedule help?
It's needed for stability. When working in law enforcement, you try to have stability as far as what's going on in your organization and as far as what's going on in your home. It's imperative that our officers have a stable home life in order so they can come to work and serve the public effectively. If not, we start running into situations where now our officers are fatigued, they're not getting the necessary time with their wife and children and being able to do things at home. When our deputies are happy at home, they're going to be happy when they come into work, and they're going to do a better job for us and the citizens. So we definitely have to put a schedule that's a little bit more stable so that deputies can have deputies and jailers can have a more stable platform to decide on when they can take off and they can take vacation and things like that.
All right, thank you. Randy, you've spoken about examining the reasons deputies are leaving, quote, in such large numbers. Other than pay benefits, what do you believe can be done to increase employee attraction and retention?
Well, I think it's along the lines of what you just asked Gary Hill. When you have a large amount of staff leaving for other agencies or other employment, I think you don't just let them walk out the door. You find out the reasons they're leaving. A lot of times it's not for pay and benefits. It's because of working conditions. Now, I believe in treating employees fairly and with respect and courtesy. So I think it's important that when you have a large amount of turnover, that you talk to the employees and find out what are the conditions that they're working in that has got them to the point where they want to find other employment. I think Gary touched on something that's right. A lot of these men and women come into the jail and they want to become law enforcement officers, but they don't see opportunities to do that here. I don't know that there's anything you can improve with that, because there's always someone waiting in the wings to fill a road position as a deputy. Jefferson City Police Department's hiring. So those deputies or those people who are coming into the jail are looking for other employment. But I think it's important to acknowledge the good work of your employees, and I think that goes a long way sometimes to keep employees at your business or your department. I remember working for good supervisors, and I've worked for bad supervisors. And when I worked for good supervisors, I enjoyed my job better. I enjoyed my family time better because I enjoyed going to work for them. They encouraged me, and they led in a positive manner. And so that's how I will lead.
All right, thank you. John, you've said you put together the policies and procedures for the entire department. Can you expand on your role in putting together those policies and procedures? And do you believe the existing policies will help the department continue to move forward? Why or why not?
Well, there, I got it. Okay. I wasn't the only one working on those policies and procedures. What we would do is we would send those out to the division commanders, and they would look at them. They would come back to me, and then once we got it finalized, then we would push it to Sheriff White and allow him to review and either kick it back or go ahead and sign them. So it was a collaborative effort. It was I guess I was the one that strongholded it or pushed it forward, but it was a collaborative effort by all. Policies and procedures always will help you out because if something's going on, and we're responding deputies, they already know what the deputy there is doing right now because he's following the policy and procedures. It also they're also written in a way to lessen the liability on the deputy and also on the sheriff's department himself. And then it just goes along with the expertise that we use to put those together. We're not first thing you learn in law enforcement is that you don't invent anything. You find somebody else's policy, you polish it a little bit, and you put your name on it and make it better. So it's a matter of looking at all the different policies that work with us, for us, and then implementing them, train and then implement.
All right, thank you. Gary, you've spoken about a town marshal program. How would that work? Why is it needed? And how would it be funded?
Town marshal program. It would work the same way that we currently do with with Wardsville and Taos. What I would like to do if I'm elected sheriff is talk with the townships and the county commission to try to see if to fund a part-time employee. Part-time employee supervised by the Cole County Sheriff's Office. Now, those funds are going to have to come either from the township itself or collaboration between the township and the Cole County Sheriff's Office and the county commission. So how it would work would be we'd put a part-time employee, a part-time deputy, and a Cole County Sheriff's vehicle in a township. We'll say Russellville. We can't include Eugene anymore because Eugene is unincorporated now and the county has taken Eugene over. So we look at Russellville and having a deputy out there. And basically what that does for us is it puts a deputy in an area to begin and start the community policing process. That deputy is their deputy. He's in that area. He doesn't work no other area of the county. So he gets a chance to get out there and meet all the people that live there, all the people that are not there when we're stopping cars, all the people that never see a deputy, they'll get to see that deputy at that point in time. Now, everything costs money, so make no mistake about that. So we'll have to come up with who's going to pay for the insurance, who's going to pay for the maintenance for the vehicle, the amount of hours the officer's going to work. So again, that program has to be a collaboration between the Cole County Sheriff's Office, Cole County County Commission, and that particular township. As far as part-time employees, we use part-time employees in the jail. There are several other cities in in the Boone County area and the Callaway County area that currently use part-time police departments, and they work just fine. I think it'd be a great way for us to be able to put our officers back out in some of the areas that don't see as much law enforcement, to be able to, again, start building up our community presence as far as the sheriff's office, because right now the deputies run call to call, and our community policing comes into whenever we make contact with a citizen. That's when we do our community policing instead of just being there and being part of the community.
All right, thank you. Randy, you've said the department seems to be hesitant to ask for assistance during major criminal investigations. Can you give any examples of when that was the case? Why do you believe there is a hesitance, and how would you improve that as sheriff?
Well, I don't want to talk about specific cases because it might involve a family member or something of somebody here or somebody who's watching. I know that when the sheriff's department has serious crime, many times they rely on the few detectives that they have, and it puts a burden on them to work a lot of hours. I have seen as investigator for the prosecutor's office that they are hesitant to call for help. In the prosecutor's office, we have a part-time investigator who is a retired IRS investigator who knows financial crimes. Very seldom has the Sheriff's Department called and asked for his assistance when they have a large financial crime investigation going on. That's just one example. Other examples would be when they have homicide investigations, they're hesitant to ask for help from anybody else. To me, that's unnecessary, because there are other agencies out there, regardless if it's the Jefferson City Police Department or the Highway Patrol or the Mid-Missouri Major Case Squad. There are agencies out there that will help when you call. That's all you have to do is call and ask. Others will come help you with your investigations. Other agencies have specialized officers or detectives or investigators that can assist with that investigation. It's vitally important when you have a serious crime that there's those first few hours that you run as many leads as you can and try to solve that crime. The longer it goes, the harder it is to solve. So I would be one that would not hesitate to call for help if we needed it. And likewise, if another agency needed help, or if the Major Case Squad was called out, we will find personnel to send to help them, because we know they would help us.
All right, thank you. John, in your campaign, you often pointed to your military background as part of your qualifications. How does military experience translate into the sheriff's position?
The ethos of the military, I mean, that's where it comes in. I'm sorry. The ethos of the military, that's where it comes in, is the integrity, knowing what the essential mission to get the mission completed. It's about, I can't think of the word right now, I just had it. But it's about having, it ingrains integrity into you, honor, all those ethos that comes from the United States military is where it benefits us. It also gives you self-discipline. There's a lot of times that you have to sometimes do your job, even though you don't feel like it. But the military is where that comes in and gives me that. You know, it's given me a lot of structure in my life. When I left high school, I graduated at 17, and I went to Mizzou, and I proved that a 17-year-old should not go to Mizzou. So in turn, I joined the military, active duty, and it was the best thing that I had ever done. I met my wife there. All my kids were born there. So it gave me a sense of family. It gave me a sense of, I mean, it's hard to explain, but it helped me so much to move me forward to where I am now. It gave me my degree. I mean, the military has done so much for me, and I believe that because of the background that I have, the fact that I've been in combat, the fact that that I've been in foreign soil, I think that all are things that makes me look at the big picture differently than anybody else, and that's why that experience that I bring from that, I think it helps me look differently down the line whenever you have problems, and helps the ability to overcome those problems.
All right, thank you. Gary, you've spoken about revising the reserve program. How so? You've also mentioned adding duties to the sheriff's posse. What duties and why?
Okay. Revising the reserve program, basically what we'd be doing is adding more reserves. Right now, currently we have a reserve program, but a lot of the reserves that we have aren't functioning reserves, meaning that they hold a commission, but because of other duties or conflict of interest, sometimes can't come out and give us the service that we need. So we're going to have to look for new reserves to come on board to help us out and give us the help that we need on the patrol. As far as finding other reserves, we're going to have to find help for the jail. We're going to have to find help for civil process. The more free help that we can get, the better we're able to use the funding and manpower that we have currently. The rural outreach program will be one of the duties that would be assigned to the posse. We can't always get out again and talk to every farmer, talk to every person that owns land to see when's the last time they've been out checking on their property, or some of the problems that they see as far as what they need from law enforcement. So By adding the posse and the reserve program together with some of the administration staff, put together our rural outreach program, and that way we can get out, do surveys, talk to people, ask them what they're looking for, find better ways of being able to police our rural communities, because we don't know it all. We don't solve crimes because we're smart. We solve crimes because people tell us things. And so being able to get out and talk more with the public, especially out in the deep rural areas of Cole County, is going to serve us well. We're not able to do that right now, again, as I stated earlier, is because most of the time we're running from call to call to call. So using the posse and using the Sheriff's Reserve Program is going to be the way that we implement that and get the information we need from our rural community, face to face.
All right, thank you. Randy, you said you want to improve the use of technology through the department. Can you be more specific as to what technology upgrades and improvements you'd make and why they are needed? How would these upgrades and improvements be funded?
Well, I think we talked about it. Excuse me. I think we've talked about it already, is the use of computer-aided dispatch in the patrol cars. That's just one example. Another example is, in today's world, everybody carries a cell phone, and the Sheriff's Department does not have anybody on staff that can run a cell phone analysis. Those things are very important in a criminal investigation, especially right after the investigation begins. When you get someone's cell phone and they've been texting their friend about the robbery they just committed or the murder they just committed, it's important that that information is gained quickly. That not only gets that information into your hands, but it gets the information into the investigator's hands, where they then can conduct proper interviews of defendants or suspects. So I would like to see, I know the Sheriff's Department contracts with a company, local company, that they can send the phones to. That, to me, takes too much time, and you're sending it out to a third party. The Highway Patrol provides that service, but they're backlogged. Jefferson City Police Department has the service. If you need it, you can call and ask them, they'll do it. Of course, you don't want to call them every day and continue to say, can you dump some phones for us? So I think having that, an investigator or detective with the Sheriff's Department have that capability to run those cell phone exams is very important today with our investigations. Other technology, there's always more technology out there. It's just what can you afford? And you ask about how do you pay for it. I think it's important that you make the case to the county commission on what's important to you and what your department needs. The county commission is there to listen and make informed decisions. If you go to them without the necessary information, they're probably going to deny it, like they have in the past. So I think you have to make the case to your county commission that there's money in the budget to fund these technology upgrades.
All right, thank you. All right, John, what leeway, if any, does the department have in issuing concealed carry permits? Is there leeway? What kind of requirements do you believe should be established for a person to get a concealed carry permit?
Well, concealed carry is it's based on state statute. So as far as leeway goes, there's not much leeway that we have there. You got to go by state statute. I'm not opposed to, because what this is going to follow up to is constitutional carry. I'm not opposed to the constitutional carry. NRA member. The problem is you got to educate people to let them know that constitutional carry isn't covered or doesn't carry forward to the surrounding states. They don't recognize it. If you get a concealed carry permit and you go to one of those states, then they do recognize that for I never pronounce the name right. Reciprocity. So it's a good idea to get the concealed carry permit. It also gives you some training, not only with the weapon itself, but also some legal training also when you go through these classes. So I think the class is good. I go and try to speak to them whenever I can. I encourage people to utilize their weapons, to go out and play with their weapons, because if the only time you're going to touch it is during your concealed carry class, then you're headed for disaster, because whenever you need it to function, it won't function right, and you won't know how to do it because you haven't had any experience with it. So I think it's the concealed carry I don't have a problem with. Constitutional carry I don't have a problem with. People just need to go into it with eyes wide open. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Gary, same question.
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. What leeway, if any, does the department have in issuing concealed carry permits? Is there leeway? What kind of requirements do you believe should be established for a person to get a concealed carry permit?
Okay. Currently, right now, what we have in place is working for us here in Cole County. Again, having a reciprocity with other states is making sure that we have that information available, because usually when someone comes up to get a concealed carry permit, they're asking, can I carry this gun in this state if I go to this state? So we usually have a list of that information on what states we do and we do not have reciprocity. As far as giving leeway, what we do, and kind of like what John just stated, as far as what the Constitution is we currently have several people here in Jefferson City that constitutionally carry. They carry open. You see them in all the stores and everywhere else. As far as getting a concealed to carry, again, we're going to do the normal stuff that we do. We're going to run the background checks. We're going to do all the things that we do to make sure that we're not going to have any liability on us by issuing a unlawful permit to someone who shouldn't have one. So right now we're doing things that we're supposed to be doing.
All right. Thank you. Randy?
I don't know that a sheriff's department has much leeway in issuing a concealed carry permit. They have to follow state law. And if you know that the legislature had passed a new law that said citizens in Missouri no longer have to obtain a permit to carry a concealed weapon. Of course, the governor has vetoed that, so we'll see what happens at the veto override session coming up. So this question may be moot after that. If the governor, his veto is overridden, then law-abiding citizens in Missouri can carry a concealed weapon without a permit. I don't know that I agree with that, because like John said, people that carry concealed weapons should have some training, and by getting the permit, it at least ensures they've had the minimum amount of training to carry that weapon. So I don't know there's any leeway that a sheriff's department can have on issuing a permit.
All right. Thank you. Now we'll have some reader-submitted questions for you. This one comes from Lee Swearingen. The Second Amendment, and this will go to Gary first, sorry. The Second Amendment to the Constitution has been batted about a lot recently, but the focus has been on the second half, stating, quote, the right of the people to keep and bear arms. Please give me your interpretation as to what a militia is and what a well-regulated militia is. Then apply the rest of the phrase, being necessity to the security of a free state. How do you see that necessity being fulfilled?
Okay. As far as a well-regulated militia, a well-regulated militia is always going to refer to any American citizens or citizens, a group of people who get together to combat a tyrannical government, a government who is trying to go against the Constitution, a government who is trying to take away our constitutional freedoms. So it doesn't matter whether they've trained one day or they've been training all year. To me, what a well-regulated militia is anybody that's going to stand up for their rights and Constitution against a tyrannical government. What was that next part?
Please give me your interpretation as to what a militia is and what a well-regulated militia is. Then apply the rest of the phrase, being necessity to the security of a free state. How do you see that necessity being fulfilled?
The necessity is always being fulfilled by us being able to keep our Second Amendment rights. The minute that we give up our Second Amendment rights, our right to be able to form a well-regulated militia, is a slippery slope for us. When we start giving up that, those rights and then the other rights intend to come, because right now, if a government decided, or our federal government or anybody outside the United States or whatever, we're always able to defend ourselves and defend our rights. Without us being able to constitutionally to bear arms, we're unable to defend ourselves against enemies, foreign and domestic, and that could be also including our government. So the well-regulated militia consists of the people who are fighting for their rights to keep their constitutional rights.
All right, thank you. Randy, same question.
Well, that was a long question.
Yes, it was.
I believe in the rights of law-abiding citizens to carry weapons if they follow the law. The Second Amendment allows that. When he talks about militias, I don't know that there's any well-regulated militia in Missouri other than the National Guard, if that's considered a militia. I know some people have talked to me over the course of the campaign about gun rights and militias and things like that. And there's those out there that believe that the government is going to come to take your weapons. There's also those that believe they need to belong to a militia to protect themselves against the government. So I don't know what that means if the person who asked that question belongs to a militia, or if I don't know what the answer is to his well-regulated militia other than the National Guard. I've not seen any well-regulated militia in Cole County other than troops. I mean, I don't know what he's referring to there. If there's a militia out there in Cole County, I'm not aware of it. So,
All right, thank you. John?
I'm going to need the question again.
All right.
Talk slow.
All right. The Second Amendment to the Constitution has been batted about a lot recently, but the focus has been on the second half, stating the right of the people to keep and bear arms. Please give me your interpretation as to what a militia is and what a well-regulated militia is. Then apply the rest of the phrase being necessity to the security of a free state. How do you see that necessity being fulfilled?
Okay, I'm going to go along with Randy on this one. The first part of the question is on what a militia is a little confusing to me. I will tell you that I'm a huge Second Amendment right believer. I believe that the Second Amendment is necessary, just like the law says, to ensure that we can defend ourselves against a tyrannical government. So I don't have a problem with the Second Amendment. The militia, I'm not sure what the question there is. But I will tell you that while I'm out and about, I get the same questions these guys do about if the government wants to take our weapons. And my standard answer is I swear an oath to follow the Constitution, 2 of them. And so if the Supreme Court, if I can't ever imagine that the Senate and the House will pass a law saying take all the guns, and I can't imagine that a president would sign it, and I can't imagine the Supreme Court would say they affirm it and say you need to take their guns. Would I take somebody's weapons from them? The answer is no. If it got to the point where I can't do my job, or I don't believe that the laws that I'm trying to enforce are constitutional, then I'll resign, and then I'll go stand with the protesters on them trying to take my guns. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next question from a reader here in the forum. Randy, we'll start with you. Highland Park, Illinois passed an ordinance banning AR-15s and high-capacity magazines. The Supreme Court refused to hear the appeal. Would you support an AR-15 ban in Cole County?
no.
Would you like to explain why?
I do not support the ban of an AR-15 weapon.
Okay. John, would you support an AR-15 ban in Cole County?
No. And the reason is people got to get out of their head that weapons. No, sorry. Thanks, Bob. People have to get it out of their heads that weapons are killing people. It's people killing people. The weapon is just a tool. If it wasn't an AR-15, it could be a 79 Buick, or it could be ball bearings and wrist rockets. So it's not the AR-15 platform is what the problem here is. The problem is that you have people deciding and choosing to kill other people, and they're utilizing these weapons to do so. So no, I would not support a ban on AR-15s. Plus, I have one, so no, I don't want to give it up.
All right. Gary?
I, like John, have several. No, I would not support a ban on AR-15s. The reason being is, kind of like what they said, you're being a cop for 18 years, and all of us have got law and law enforcement officers. We've seen more deaths come from car accidents and DWIs and things like that than we have seen in gun violence here in the state of Missouri. As far as the ban on what weapons we should and should not have, I've always been a proponent of the citizens should have the same weaponry that the government has, and that goes back to my belief in the Second Amendment, with the exception of nuclear arsenals or anything like that. But as far as weapons that infantry and things like that use, I believe that citizens should be allowed the same weaponry as the government.
All right, thank you. All right, next question for John. We'll start with you. This is about campaign funding. Who have been your major contributors? Are you fiscally responsible for your campaign? And do you have any deficits?
I do have deficits. My biggest contributor. I've had so many different. Sorry. I do have deficits right now. As far as a huge donor, I think I've had a lot of different $1,000 here, $1,000 there. I can't think off the top of my head. Be quite honest, I don't look at it. That's what my treasurer, Greg Gaffkey's for. But I try to keep up with it, and I look at them, I sign the reports, but I think I'm responsible with my money, yes.
All right. Gary, same question.
As far as biggest contributor to my campaigns, you're looking at them. I've put in a lot of my money into this myself, and I invested in myself into this campaign. I don't think I have a lot of deficits out. My treasurer is here also, but I'm the biggest contributor to my campaign.
All right, thank you. Randy?
My largest contributor to my campaign has been the local Fraternal Order of Police, because those officers and members of that organization believe in me and have helped me immensely over the last 18 months to conduct this campaign. And I have no deficits or I think I've spent my money wisely and locally.
All right, thank you. And we'll start the next one with Gary. Do you think education plays a significant role in leadership?
Absolutely. I'm a big education person. As I stated earlier before, I have a master's degree in criminal justice. I currently am an adjunct professor at Lincoln University, Columbia College, and I also instruct at the Missouri Sheriff's Academy. Education is just that. And what education does for our law enforcement officers when they have it is it opens up their minds. It opens up their minds from philosophies and other people's ideologies. It also gives them diversity, them being able to think, not only to think about the way they think, but to see how other people think and being able to come in contact with other people. Education also provides you a level of confidence that when you're in law enforcement you need. You need to have that level of confidence that you know what you're doing. We have a saying in the company that I work for, and that is capability breeds humility. Well, when you have education, that gives you that capability to know what you're doing and to be able to make it applicable to the job that you're currently working.
Thank you. Randy, same question.
What was your question again?
Do you think education plays a significant role in leadership?
I think of any leadership role, education is very important. You have to have the training and the background to be an effective leader, I believe. And I think that comes with years of experience and knowledge on what management role you're going to take.
All right, thank you. John, same question.
So I hit the button. I'm with these guys. Education is a huge, unbelievably huge thing to have for an administrator. And the reason being is it does open your minds to different ideas. It also allows you to look at different problems. It allows you to look at different ideas from different directions. It helps you all the way around and makes you a better person, I think, the more education you have. Not only the education from being a law enforcement officer and in the training that you get while doing so, but also from, I've got a bachelor's degree for criminal justice administration. And whenever you went through my class, or whenever I went through the class, not only did we talk about just criminal justice, but we talked about corrections, and we just talked about a whole bunch of things. And then you're also able to relate with some of the people that's in the room and able to talk to them to get their ideas. So the more information you can get on any problem, the better off you are trying to solve it.
Thank you. All right, our final question comes from Terry Ursum. For many decades, the Cole County Sheriff's Department has had a reserve deputy program. This is a group of post-certified individuals that hold commissions as deputy sheriffs. The men and women serve at the pleasure of the sheriff and have the same powers and responsibilities as the full-time deputies. If elected sheriff of Cole County, what are your plans for the reserve deputy program? And we'll start with Randy.
Thank you. That's a good question. I've always been a firm believer in volunteerism. Volunteerism has made this country what it is today. Even our community relies on volunteers in every aspect of our lives. The Cole County Sheriff's Department in the past had a very strong reserve program. I actually started with the police department as a police reserve. So I know what it's like to be a volunteer, to come in and volunteer your time, typically on Friday or Saturday nights, to augment the patrol officers on the street. So I believe that we need a strong reserve program. There are a lot of people in this community that have law enforcement training and backgrounds and are willing to give their time in that effort. I believe that they have to be acknowledged for their efforts and appreciated for their efforts. And I don't know all the ins and outs of the reserve program now, but I know it has dwindled down to little or nothing right now. And it's hard to get people to come in if you're asking them to come in and work in the jail and do laundry. So it would be my goal to strengthen the reserve program, try to bring more people into the reserve program, put them out on patrol with the deputies, either double up in the cars if this reserve has limited experience but has the law enforcement background. We may not want to put them out in the car by themselves. That's what I experienced as a reserve police officer. We attended the training, but we had to ride with an experienced officer. If you have somebody that is either retired, has been working in law enforcement for some time, and you trust them to do a good job for the Sheriff's Department, I believe they can be in a car by themselves, and they can help patrol officers out on the street. Now, if there's times that it's busy in the jail and those reserve officers want to come in and volunteer their time to help in the jail, that would be great. But most volunteer reserve sheriff's deputies or law enforcement officers don't want to come in and work in the jail. They want to go out in the street and help their community that way. Thank you.
Thank you. John, same question.
We simply cannot do our job without the reserves. We can't do our job without the reserves. They're too integral to our organization. Here a while back, I implemented a new program on the reserves, and it's the 120 hours. You have to do 20 hours in civil, 20 hours in jail, and 20 hours on the road. The other 60 hours you can do whatever you want. And there's other aspects to it. They have to come out and work the Cole County Fair. They have to work Lincoln Homecoming. They have to work the picnics. We always want someone out to picnics. And it looks like at first, it did look like that I wouldn't get people that would want to do it. But those individuals that didn't like it left, and then we had new ones come in, and they kind of like doing it. I have some that really like the jail, so they put their 20 hours, they do their 60 hours, but they do their time in the jail, because doing jail time isn't working down there and doing laundry. It's us calling you and saying that we have a prisoner in the hospital and we need somebody to go sit on him. And that's where that reserve comes in. It's also calling them and telling them we have a prisoner down in Charleston that needs picked up on a Saturday, and they come in and do that. And when they do those things, it takes, so our full-time staff doesn't have to pay for that. So it's a great program that we have, this 20, and 20. And before, all they were doing was helping Patrol Division, which needs help, but they weren't implementing and they weren't helping any other part. They come in and they work they go and serve papers. They also, pretty much all of our sex offender program is done by one of our reserves. So it's a great program. I would like to increase it if possible. We have 20 right now, and I would like to increase it when probably 17 or 16 of them are actually working hard. But I'd like to increase that to 25 if possible, because they are so integral to our program. It is hard to get people, like Randy said, to go out and be able to work by themselves, because it's a huge county. And not only that, but these are individuals that are given their time to come in and work, but not many of them want to go and then go to court. So we try to put those that want to ride by themselves. They do. We have a car specifically for the reserves. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Gary?
Definitely want to increase the reserve program. You have to look at a couple of things. It's about $100,000 the first year to hire a brand new deputy. $100,000. We could always use 4 more deputies to add to the 4 different teams that we have. So you're looking at close to $500,000 to hire deputies the first year. Second year, it'll drop down to roughly around $300,000. And then when you look over here and we have a reserve deputy who's free, with the exception of his uniform, his duty gun, and the boots and stuff that we provide. So we get so much more out of our reserve program. And again, up under me as sheriff, would definitely have to increase that, because I don't see the citizens or the county commission voting to give us $500,000 so we can add more deputies to the road. The part that they play is so integral in the sense of, one, these guys are coming out and they're volunteering their time, and not only are they volunteering their time, but they're part of the community. So these people who are reserves and coming in and working for us are giving those extra set of eyes that we need out in the community whenever we need help or whenever we need information. So the more reserve deputies that we have, the more information we have. Again, it goes back to what I said earlier, and that is, we don't solve crimes because we're smart. We solve crimes because people tell us stuff. So the more eyes we have out in the community who are able to help protect the citizens of Cole County, the better off we are. So I would love to increase the reserve program and add more people.
All right, thank you. That concludes the question portion of the evening, and now we're going to go to our closing statements. John, you'll begin it. You'll have 1 minute for your closing statement.
Thanks again. I appreciate the invite to come and do this. I'm looking to be the sheriff of the next Cole County sheriff. I've been training under Sheriff White for the last 11 years. I was able to help him with a lot of the programs that start now, with the relationship building within the community, which I'd like to increase. I promise moral and ethical decision making. I promise to be as transparent as I possibly can, and to be fiscally responsible for the citizens of Cole County. I've been doing this for the last 11 and a half years, and with your support and your vote on August 2nd, I'd like to continue doing that by being Cole County Sheriff. Thank you.
Thank you. Gary, you would be next.
If you go back and you look at my track record, I've been at the Cole County Sheriff's Office for the last 18 years. The last 18 years, I've worked for 4 different sheriffs that have sat in that administration. And with that, I've either been promoted or placed in a high position of trust up under all 4 of those administrations. So that's something to be looked at. I started in the jail and I worked my way to the top. I know just about the ins and outs of all the sheriff's department and things that need to be done. I'm running for sheriff because Cole County Sheriff's Department is my home. I started there. I want to finish there. I want to finish as sheriff. I bring agility and diversity to our county. I always have and always will. I also bring fresh and new ideas. I'm able to change with our ever-changing county as new people continue to move in, old people continue to move out. I'm able to move with the times. I'm asking for your vote on August 2nd to be your next Cole County Sheriff.
Thank you. Randy.
Get it? Thank you. Now more than ever, our citizens must have faith and confidence in their law enforcement leaders. As a 30-year law enforcement officer here in Cole County, I have gained the respect and trust from those in law enforcement, public safety, and citizens throughout our community. That's why I've been endorsed by the Jefferson City Police Officers Association, the Missouri State Fraternal Order of Police, and the Jefferson City Firefighters Local. They know and have worked with all 3 of us and believe and have the confidence in me that I would be the best sheriff. The position of sheriff requires someone who has worked their way up to chain of command and has experience with all levels of supervision. By having served in these roles, I know what it takes to be an effective leader from the street level to the command level. It is also vitally important to know the community and the citizens that we serve. As the only candidate for sheriff who was born and raised here in Cole County, I know this community best. I've always been proud to be a member of this community and a member of law enforcement. As sheriff, I will bring a new level of professionalism to the office and will work cooperatively with all law enforcement agencies to better serve our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone this evening, the candidates first, for coming and submitting themselves to these questions. And again, I thank you very much. I want to thank those in attendance tonight as well as those watching. I would remind everyone to vote on August 2nd. It's a very important election coming up, and it would be great to have a high turnout at the polls. I would also be remiss if I didn't plug our own election coverage at the News Tribune. As we get closer to Election Day, we plan more coverage of this and the other races that voters will be facing on August 2nd. So again, thank you for this evening, and good night.